They called Staff Sergeant Rebecca Hayes just another combat medic who stitched cuts and handed out pain pills. But when a devastating IED blast left 150 soldiers wounded and 3 Iraqi children fighting for their lives, she was about to reveal the secret that would change everything. Meet Staff Sergeant Rebecca Hayes, 29 years old, with steady green eyes and auburn hair always tucked beneath her Kevlar helmet. Standing 5'6" with quiet confidence, she'd served as primary medic for Alpha Company at Forward Operating Base Desert Storm for 6 months. To her fellow soldiers, Rebecca was exactly what her file claimed, a competent field medic with standard Army medical training. But Staff Sergeant Hayes carried a secret she prayed would never surface. 4 years earlier, Dr. Rebecca Ann Hayes had been the youngest pediatric surgeon at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. She'd graduated summa cum laude from University of Pennsylvania Medical School and specialized in emergency pediatric surgery. At 25, she was performing complex operations that saved children's lives daily. Then came the night that shattered everything. During emergency surgery on a 7-year-old car accident victim, a split-second decision cost the child her life. The medical board cleared Rebecca of wrongdoing, calling it an unavoidable tragedy, but Rebecca couldn't live with herself. She walked away from a $350,000 salary and enlisted as a combat medic, requesting dangerous assignments, hoping that saving soldiers might balance the scales. For 6 months at FOB Desert Storm, Rebecca had found peace in simplicity. Basic wound care, medication distribution, routine medical issues, never letting anyone suspect she could perform surgeries most doctors wouldn't attempt. That peace exploded at 13:47 hours on a scorching Thursday afternoon. Rebecca was inventorying medical supplies when the ground trembled violently. The first explosion threw her against the supply cabinet. The second shattered every window. By the third blast, Rebecca realized this was a coordinated attack designed for maximum devastation. She grabbed her medic bag and sprinted toward screaming. Outside, she found absolute carnage. A massive truck bomb had detonated at the base entrance, collapsing the guard tower and burying soldiers under concrete and twisted metal. Bodies lay everywhere, some moving, some still, all bleeding. "Medic! Medic!" The desperate calls came from every direction. What made Rebecca's blood run cold wasn't just wounded soldiers. A civilian vehicle had been caught in the blast, an Iraqi family's car crushed beneath debris. She could see 3 small forms inside, children trapped and crying. "Hayes, thank God you're here," shouted Sergeant First Class Marcus Thompson, blood streaming from shrapnel wounds. "We've got mass casualties everywhere. Start triaging." Rebecca began rapid assessments, her medical training engaging automatically. But something else activated: pediatric surgical experience that allowed her to see beyond surface trauma to critical damage beneath. As she moved through casualties, Rebecca's heart sunk. Too many for one medic, and several soldiers needed immediate surgery that couldn't wait for helicopter evacuation. Worse, yet those 3 Iraqi children needed pediatric expertise that didn't exist in this combat zone. "Hayes," Thompson called out, "Major Williams is trapped bad." Rebecca found Major David Williams, their battalion commander, pinned beneath a steel beam with obvious internal injuries and compound fracture. Blood pooled beneath him, arterial bleeding that would kill him within minutes. Rebecca saw massive internal bleeding, probably ruptured spleen, possible liver damage, arterial tears. In a hospital, this required a team of surgeons. In a combat zone, it was a death sentence unless the medic happened to be a former trauma surgeon. Williams grabbed her arm. "Hayes, how many casualties?" "Too many, sir." "Then you do what you have to do. Save who you can save, don't waste my time." He was telling her to classify him as expectant, expected to die, but Rebecca couldn't accept that, not when she had skills to save him. Then she heard it, weak crying from the crushed civilian vehicle. 3 children, ages 5 to 10, trapped and bleeding. "Thompson,
I need 4 soldiers to help extract Major Williams and get those kids out. We're setting up emergency surgery right here." "Hayes, are you insane? Emergency surgery? You're a medic, not a surgeon." Rebecca looked at Major Williams losing consciousness, then at crying children trapped 50 meters away. She made a decision that would change everything. "Thompson, get me a field surgery kit. I'm going to save them all." Rebecca's hands were already working, cutting away Williams' uniform to expose wounds. What she saw confirmed assessment: ruptured spleen, arterial bleeding, possible liver damage. In a hospital, this required a team of surgeons. In a combat zone, it was a death sentence unless the medic happened to be a former trauma surgeon. "Thompson, I need you to trust me. Get me that surgical kit now and get a team to extract those children." Something in her voice made Thompson stop arguing. He ran for supplies while Rebecca began working on Major Williams with skill and precision that shouldn't have been possible for a field medic. She inserted IV lines with one hand while applying pressure to arterial bleeding with the other. Her movements were economical, professional, automatic, muscle memory from thousands of hours in operating rooms. "What the hell are you doing, Hayes?" Captain Rodriguez appeared beside her. "Saving his life," she replied without looking up. She was now working inside Williams' abdominal cavity with instruments designed for field medicine, not surgery. Performing procedures that violated every Army medical manual protocol, but it was working. Meanwhile, soldiers had extracted the 3 Iraqi children. All had severe injuries requiring immediate pediatric surgery. "Captain Rodriguez," Rebecca said, "these children are going to die without immediate pediatric surgery. We have about 20 soldiers who need surgery I can perform in this field environment." Rodriguez stared at her. "What are you saying, Hayes?" Rebecca looked up from her patient. "I'm saying that sometimes people have skills they don't talk about, sir. And right now those skills are the difference between watching people die and saving their lives." What followed was the most intense 6 hours of Rebecca's life. Working in a makeshift field hospital, she performed surgeries that shouldn't have been possible. She saved Major Williams with complex abdominal surgery. She performed pediatric operations on all 3 Iraqi children. She operated on soldiers with injuries that would have required evacuation. As medical helicopter support finally arrived that evening, Rebecca briefed flight medics on procedures she'd performed. They stared in amazement. "Sergeant, where did you learn to do this?" Rebecca looked at patients who would survive because of her intervention. "She learned it where I needed to learn it," she said quietly. 3 weeks later, Major Williams returned to FOB Desert Storm. He requested a private meeting. "Hayes, I've been thinking about what happened that day. That wasn't field medicine. That was world-class surgery performed in a combat zone." Rebecca looked at him steadily. "I did my job, sir." "No, you did someone else's job. Multiple jobs: trauma surgery, pediatric surgery, emergency medicine, all performed simultaneously under enemy fire. I've been wondering who you really are." A long pause. "I'm Staff Sergeant Rebecca Hayes, combat medic, Alpha Company." "And before you were Staff Sergeant Hayes?" Another pause. "Before doesn't matter, sir. What matters is that everyone lived." He nodded slowly. "Hayes, I'm recommending you for the Silver Star. What you did was extraordinary." "Sir, I don't need recognition. I just need to keep doing my job." Rebecca met his eyes. "Some people are just good at their jobs, sir." Williams smiled. "Some people are, and some people have had other lives that prepared them to be impossibly good at their current job." Over following months, Rebecca continued as company medic, but word of her ability spread. She never acknowledged being anything more than her file said, but stopped pretending her skills were limited to basic field medicine. 9 months later, Rebecca received orders: instructor at Army Medical School, teaching advanced combat medicine. She would never reveal she'd once been Dr. Rebecca Ann Hayes, pediatric surgeon, but she would use everything learned to ensure other medics had skills needed to bring everyone home alive. The woman who had been just a combat medic had become something more: a bridge between worlds, combining civilian medical expertise with battlefield courage. She'd learned to save lives not because of title or qualifications, but because saving lives was simply who she was. And in the end, that was enough. If stories like Rebecca's deserve to be shared, help us honor more forgotten warriors. Hit subscribe and join Tales of Valor family. Every week, we bring you true stories of courage most people never hear about. Tell us in the comments, have you met someone far more capable than they appeared? Share your story and subscribe for more untold tales of military valor.